Shit, forgot a beer.
Careful what you wish for.
Welcome back to Horror on Tap, where everything's made up and the points don't matter. Wait, that's not right. Welcome back to Horror on Tap, where I will watch, review, and rate horror movies that I have not seen before. On today's episode, I am watching Wishmaster. No, not watching. God damn it. On today's episode, I am taking a look at Wishmaster, released in 1997, directed by Robert Kurtzman, starring Andrew Divoff, whatever, Tammy Lauren, and also featuring names like Robert Englund, Kane Hodder, and Tony Todd. So I certainly don't feel the need to really lay out the entire plot of the film. Either you've seen it, or if you haven't, please feel free to go watch the movie. But I imagine if you're watching this, you've probably seen the film already. So much like many movies that feature genies, the jinn can only use his powers for wish fulfillment. His MO is definitely a lot more sinister than that of most genies you will find in movies, such as Aladdin, for example. The genie in that film had pretty good intentions. In Wishmaster, clearly the jinn has ulterior motives when granting wishes. So that take on a genie, the evil genie, who grants wishes, and oftentimes almost unwittingly to people, where they really don't know that they're wishing for something. They're just saying, oh, I would like for this, or I would want for that. For example, the kid who gets his eyes essentially removed from his head. He just said, he didn't even say anything. He just kind of nodded and said yes when the jinn sort of directed him into the wish, asking, is this something you would not like to see? Yes. And then poof, eyes are gone. Very sinister use of powers for sure. Before I forget, let's take a look at what I'm drinking. Sierra Nevada Hazy Little Thing IPA. That is one damn fine beer. All right, here we go. Get it going. Get the juices flowing. So, the basic plot of the movie, pretty much, it's an evil genie. Not too much more to it than that. Does a bunch of bad shit. Kills a bunch of people. Gives people their wishes, but not really. So, the concept, bit of a spin on the whole genie idea. Pretty good. Don't mind it at all. Really enjoyed the film overall. The evil genie concept was pretty unique, I thought. Usually when you get a genie, it's a good guy. Say, hey genie, I wish for all the riches in the world. And poof, you're richer than Elon Musk. But in this take, the characters would wish for something, or desire something, or say they wanted something, and the genie or the jinn would use it as an evil ploy or an evil plot to give them something that they didn't actually want. Put a spin on it, but he was really doing exactly what they said, which is kind of funny with the tagline there, be careful what you wish for, which kind of makes sense in real life. Not that I want to get into that. That's too far. Let's skip that. But characters wishing for something, or saying that they desire something or want something, and then it comes true, but not in the way that they had imagined, and then they pretty much want to take it back, which becomes the second wish. And then the jinn requires a third wish in order for the other jinns to be released. So he's pushing these characters to get to that third wish. And usually he only gets past the first and maybe the second. Second usually seems to be the, ooh, that's not quite what you wanted. Well, now why don't you unwish for it? Or the first wish will be something there, he gives them something that they think they want. The second one is something that they think maybe they want, but they definitely don't want. So that he tries to get them to do the third wish, which would then, in turn, be the final wish, and then, poof, all the jinn can be released. I was kind of curious where the film was going to end, because you knew the jinn wasn't going to get his way. And I got thinking about it, I was like, I wonder how she's going to, how the protagonist, Alex, is going to spin this. How she's got to do something to beat this guy. And then the spin at the end becomes very Back to the Future-esque, where she wishes for something back in time to change, which would then change the future.
I wish Mickey Torelli hadn't been drinking on the job 2 days ago.
The beer. I'm sorry. Can't help it. So that conclusion, that Back to the Future kind of Terminator-esque take on it, was actually pretty delightful, I thought. It was a good way to end the film. And then, of course, they sort of relive everything that would have happened without the existence of the jinn being there, and what had happened with the accident on the dock. She changes that course of history, and all of a sudden you have a new present. Very much Terminator / Back to the Future. But that was very enjoyable to watch. Overall, I think, given everything, I would give the plot of the film a Porter. Nothing too spectacular, but very enjoyable. The way they kind of spun everything at the end, I thought was kind of a neat way to go. So, Porter it is. Moving on to characters, there really weren't too many prominent characters in this movie. Most of the characters, it felt like they were just introduced to be killed off. Not too much of a backstory or anything like that. You have the jinn, you have Alex, the protagonist, her best friend, Josh, and then her sister. You do get some pretty good cameos or short-lived characters. Tony Todd, of course, Kane Hodder, and Robert Englund as Beaumont. So the characters in this film, not a heck of a lot of character development. It felt like a lot of the characters were introduced just to be killed off. The kills were great, and I'll get to that here momentarily. Of course, the character of the Jinn, I thought that was a great portrayal. Cool character. The voice of the Jinn, very iconic. Alex, our protagonist, not a whole lot of character development with her, but her being a basketball coach was a little bit of an added touch. And then, of course, the backstory with her and her sister and her family and things like that. A little bit of development there. The sister Shannon, again, same thing. Not a lot of backstory, not too much to her. Not even in the movie a lot, but does play a couple pivotal roles in the film. The best friend, Josh, short-lived character. He got a little bit of a backstory, but not much. Really, just more that he and Alex were best friends, and he was trying to be more than that with her, which can't blame him. She's pretty goddamn hot. And then you got to go on to some of the tertiary characters. The big names, of course, Tony Todd, Robert Englund as Mr. Beaumont, and then Kane Hodder as the security guard. Beaumont got a little bit of a backstory, a little bit of character development, was in a few scenes. Tony Todd's character and Kane Hodder's character, pretty brief, pretty quick. Again, they were pretty much just put in the movie to be killed off, and also being really big names in horror. It was probably pretty interesting being Andrew and having to look at these three guys, Tony Todd, Robert Englund, Kane Hodder, and being like, I'm the lead in this horror movie, not you guys. I don't know if that would have been a really cool feeling or a really intimidating feeling. For the characters, I'm giving this also a Porter. I feel like there were just a lot of characters that were introduced to be killed off. Not a heck of a lot of development or depth, and not too many characters that you really got to know very well. So, Porter, middle of the road, 3 out of 5 is where I'm sticking with that one. Alright, so now we're moving on to one of the better categories of kills. And in this movie, the kills were pretty outstanding. The first one you get is the box of the statue dropping on the guy on the dock. Very well done. Very, very good way to start the movie, really. The way the box lands on him, you just see him fold, collapse. He's gone. Josh, the best friend in the lab with the explosion, and then the djinn coming about and ending up killing him. Kind of, it was more off screen as to what actually happened to him, so I really don't even know exactly what did happen to him. I went back and watched it again. I was like, oh, okay, well, like he said he wanted the pain to go away, and he granted that wish, but you don't really get to see what happens per se. The pharmacist, that was actually a really cool kill. Way the bum kind of tells him he wishes he dies of cancer, and then it's like advanced cancer, like right now when he's dead, dies on the floor with like the boils and things just like growing out of him. One that I really enjoyed was the cop who's on top of the guy in the police station. He grabs a hold of his jaw and just rips it right off. That was pretty damn gnarly. Of course, Kane Hodder's character, the security guard, ending up in the glass, and then the djinn walks through him, and then it blows up. Creative, given the limitations of special effects back then. Not too bad. Although, I mean, this was, I think, a couple years after Jurassic Park, but obviously the budget wasn't anywhere remotely close to that one. Johnny Valentine being Tony Todd's character. He dies the Houdini escape death. That was pretty unique to see. Didn't expect that at all. And then, of course, right near the end, during the party, that huge slaughter that happens during the party. So many different kills, very unique kills. Things like the intestines coming out of one of the guys, and then it's like latching on to another person, almost like the intestines are an alien coming out of the guy's stomach. It was really neat, really cool. The kills were pretty fantastic in this film. The kills, I will give an IPA. Very well done. Very well done. Definitely look forward to seeing them again here pretty soon, actually. And for what this movie was, and for what the budget was, and what the abilities of effects groups to do, and makeup artists, and the CGI and all that, what they were able to do with the limitations of the late 90s was actually extremely well done. The music was done by Harry Manfredini, very well known for doing Friday the 13th. The music didn't really stand out in any point to me, but it was very recognizable as being Harry Manfredini. When you did pay attention to it, you could hear those tones and the nuances and the instruments that he was very well known for. So that was one of those things that didn't really jump out at you, but once you noticed it, you could tell. You'd say, hey, I know who's producing that music. So the kills especially were a highlight of this movie. All the gore and the different effects that they used, the practical effects were fantastic. The opening scene that takes place in Persia, the guy ending up in the wall, kind of like Han Solo, just... And then all the kills and the things that happened during that scene alone were great. The guy who ends up he's on the ground, and then his own skeleton starts ripping out of his skin, and then that's all that's left of him. He sits up and he's just a skeleton. That was amazing. Really freaking cool. The scene where the Jinn is taking the skin off the guy's face in the morgue or whatever it was, using his fingernails and sort of cutting through when the other guy comes through, the little lab tech or whatever, and peels it off and then puts it on his face, and it just sort of absorbs, and now it's his face. Then the hair, of course, poof, pops in. That was a little CGI, and that wasn't the greatest, but the practical effects were fantastic. One scene that I sat back and watched with total appreciation was what I call the voice off between the Jinn and Johnny Valentine, Tony Todd's character. So you've got these two sort of iconic voices, one of which is fairly new at that time when people didn't really know too much, or didn't know too well, at least. Maybe they didn't know at all. But the two going back and forth, that low, deep voice of the Jinn, and then Tony Todd coming in back, just shooting right back with his own voice. He's got that deep voice and sort of that enunciation, the way he speaks. Really well done. I had to sit back, just go, oh, that is so cool.
Yeah. I've dealt with your type before.
Mister, you never even met my type before.
That was a great moment for me. The production value, great for what this movie was and what it was budgeted for and what was available at that time, especially on that kind of budget. I'm giving this one an IPA as well. One thing I left out that probably should have ended up in the plot segment that I just have to touch on because it's hilarious was the scene in the department store where the Jinn is getting his new suit and everything. He starts following the lady who's helping him out back to the register, and he's like, after you, and she starts walking, and he's kind of giving her that look from behind, like, how you doing? I really didn't expect to see this kind of evil genie being so horny, but he's a male, so I guess I shouldn't have been too surprised, but that made me chuckle. So overall, I'm going to give this movie a Porter rating. It was a little bit above average for me, but not above average enough to elicit an IPA rating. Now, the movie did spawn 3 sequels, which is very telling. So I'll have to check a few of them out here at some point. They probably won't end up on the channel, at least not right away. Maybe down the line I'll dig into them, but I've got a lot of other movies that I'm really looking forward to that I got to get into well before I get into those. So I will delve into those ones a little bit later on. So overall, Porter rating for this film. Let me know whether or not you agreed with my ratings in the comments. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying the content so far. And until next time, go yourself. Bottoms up.